Hello and good day to you, my beautiful friends. I do hope you're well. Welcome to episode 42 of Cross Button VR, our journey into the world of PSVR2, a show for those who want to share in our newfound enthusiasm for the world of VR. I'm your host, Laurie, and we are part of the Cross Players. So if you like what you hear, do check out thecrossplayers.com for links to all of our content and our Discord, and do check out Crosscast, our weekly podcast that covers the full gamut of gaming. Now, it is an honor to be joined by two of the most bombastic influencers in the metaverse. It's Ben and Alex. Hello there, chaps.
Mr. Bombastic.
Yeah, there you go.
Here we go.
Hi, Laurie.
It's funny I say that. Go on. What? Go on.
No,
Why is that funny?
Alex stole the joke. It was fine.
He's a lover.
He never does that. Never does that. Yeah, you both well? You good?
Yeah, really good. Feeling Christmassy. Good. I've got the Christmas lights. Alex has got his Christmas jumper.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
Laurie,
beautiful.
Where's the effort? Come on, man.
No Christmas up here in the loft for me. The Christmas doesn't extend this far into our house.
All right, Harry Potter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, maybe by next week. We'll do a Christmas episode next week. I'll put some lights up for you, just for you, Ben. And you, Alex. I do have a PlayStation Christmas jumper as well, so I might even wear that.
Yay.
Oh, and I've got a Nintendo one, so we can all represent, the big three.
The cross players.
There we go.
Yeah, although Alex, you should have a Quest Christmas jumper. Do they do those
Maybe.
yet?
Yeah, maybe see if I can find one.
All right, enough about your jumper collection. We've got plenty to get through tonight because we have a treat for everyone tonight. We have got an epic interview with none other than Jörg Tittel, the developer of C-Smash VRS, the winner of our best sports game of the year. He was so pleased to win his award. He wanted to come in and thank us personally. And he did. So we've had a great time talking to him. And as ever with Jörg, the interview was wide-ranging, broad, full of interesting insights and conversation and stuff. So everyone should check out. And that is going to be the bulk of this episode. So we are just going to cover off just quite briefly some of the news. I think we're going to come back next week with some of the things we've been playing once we've had a bit more time with them, because there's been quite a few really good big releases this week, and we'll cover them off quickly, the reception to them, but we want to all spend a bit more time with them before we have a proper discussion about them. If you want to find out the latest reviews about Arizona Sunshine, there's plenty of people out there that reviewed it already, so you don't need to. You can wait to hear our thoughts. It's fine. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the news. First up, we've got a reveal of a game which I saw and I thought, this is the most Alex game I have ever seen. Toy Trains VR. Yeah, he's nodding vigorously for the audio listeners. It's you're in your granddad's loft with a toy train set, and you have to basically, it seems like a puzzle solving game where you have to put bits of track down to get people to where they want to be and stuff, and then it says once you've solved the puzzles you can just tinker with it, just put little trees down and people down, and yeah, it just looks like a lovely relaxing time.
I can't confirm or deny whether this might already be installed on my PlayStation.
Wow. Well, it comes out on January the 16th, so you've got nice early access to it there, so
kept that one quiet, Alex.
If you do or don't have it, who knows?
Well, who knows?
Who knows? We might be getting Alex's thoughts in the future weeks then. So
it does look nice though. I'm genuinely interested to try this one out. And obviously, if there's one thing cooler than a grown man playing with a train set, it's a grown man playing with a train set in VR. So yeah, looking forward to that.
It goes with my coolness of grown man playing with Lego in VR. So.
Just regressing into a virtual childhood.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll hear about that one in a few weeks' time then from Alex. Thank you. Another game that has been released this week, surprise release for Among Us. We knew it was coming. Well, at least I think we knew it was coming. And it just kind of dropped without any surprise. Everyone was like, oh, hold on, it's out there. And then it was a day or two later they actually put a blog up about it, didn't they? And actually confirmed that it was out.
And it was kind of like a staggered drop. Like, it was like, oh, it's available. It's not. And then it was like, but it's not available here, and it's available here, and it's not. And I'm like, give it time. Come on, calm down.
And Ben, you cheeky little minx, have picked this one up, haven't you, already?
Yeah.
Bought that straight in there. Yeah. Very good.
Straight in. First impressions, very strong. I've saw some of the guys in the community playing it as well. Seems to be popular. Although the sort of lobbies when you're playing outside your friendship group, pretty dead still. But early days.
I think I'd only ever want to play this game with friends anyway, because you want to just be. It's like it's that social experience, I think, with it. And on our Discord, it's got a very funny video of, I think, is it Phil and Reese playing it, and someone Phil's following Reese, and you can hear him singing to himself, which is very, very endearing there. So yeah,
very cool.
All right, we'll talk about more about that. I think this one we're all going to pick up, and we'll organise a game night while playing that.
Yes,
that should be good fun. Another game which has arrived and hasn't seen any reviews for this. I don't think they gave out any review codes, which is never a good sign. Is Arashi Castles of Sin got its PSVR2 version? And Alex, I think you have found out that it's not particularly good landing.
Yeah, certainly from the kind of chatter I've seen on Twitter and stuff, it seems to fall into the buggy mess category rather than the triumphant category. So
that's a shame.
It hasn't gone down too well.
I enjoyed the look of this one, so that's a shame.
Yeah, I watched a bit of Kind of Funny stream it on launch day, and it looked fine to me. Obviously, that was a sponsor stream, so they're not going to slag it off. But yeah, it looked all right. I think Push Square have done a mini review of it and gave it 6 out of 10, which is probably in line with what you're hearing. Not terrible, but yeah. Not great.
It's a tough week to launch a 6 out of 10, though.
Yes.
It's a tough year to launch a 6 out of 10.
Well, indeed, yeah. But I mean, there must be a market for someone wanting to be a virtual samurai. So I think people will still want to play it, and maybe they'll patch it up to scratch. So we can. I'd like to play it at some point. A game that has come out and we've been playing and has reviewed very well, though, is Arizona Sunshine 2. And like I said at the beginning, we will do a proper in-depth review of this one in the next week or two. But I'm really liking what I've played so far of it. It's really, really good game, really fun, really well polished. I think it's close to a AAA game as you'll get in VR.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Cool.
We'll talk more about that next week.
Yeah. Okay. And then there's Vertigo 2 as well, which was also due to release this week. We've been playing a bit of that. I've got lots to say about. I've got lots of thoughts on that one, but we're going to hold off on that one as well because it had a last minute delay. It's now been coming out. They don't know when, do they?
They haven't.
They found a bug, so just as long as it takes them to fix it, I guess.
Yeah, they basically said they could have taken the risk that they could have still released it today, but they didn't want to release it if they couldn't get the bug fixed. So they don't think it's going to take too long to get it fixed, and they're working on it. But they don't want to. They don't want to take the risk of releasing it with the bug, which I think in this climate is fair enough. Like if something's come up last minute and you're aware of it, then give it a few days until you fix it.
And you have to remember with that game, it is a very small development team that is making that game.
Yeah.
Just sort out that frog with the saggy tits while you're at it as well.
What is that all about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got lots to say about this game, but we shall hold off until next week on that one. Firewall Ultra is getting some new maps, which if anyone's still playing that, there might be some people. Be excited, there'll be some new maps. I'm surprised it's taken a while. That sort of thing, live service games, they get quite a lot of new content at launch. But yeah, it's getting some new maps now, which is good for people that want to play that. Still not really one that's appealing to me.
We'll get there eventually. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And then yesterday we had the Upload VR conference, and it was loads, wasn't it? There were loads of things in it, but there wasn't a huge amount of PSVR2 stuff. There were loads of quests, which made me realise, like, oh god, PSVR2 is a niche of a niche. Still, Quest is very much the leading VR platform, and it pains me to say that as the host of a PSVR2 podcast, but it's just the facts, right? It's like there were so many everything is in development for Quest, maybe Quest and PC VR, but pretty much everything's coming to Quest. So yeah, reminded me there's some work for Sony to do to make the case for themselves as to why not.
But what I would say though, on the other hand, is I wouldn't be surprised though if you come out and Game Awards are a few hours away, and I'd be shocked if you don't see Sony announce something for the PSVR2 at Game Awards. Yeah,
and if they do, it will probably be bigger and more high profile than anything that was shown at the Upload VR. And that's the thing with Quest. It's getting tons of games in it, but they're not games that are capturing the zeitgeist part of the conversation in a way that a new Astrobot would.
Yeah,
No.
because
Go on, Alex, sorry.
I was going to, because I tweeted out about this and there was very mixed reaction, because I watched this and I thought it was very good. I thought I was quite excited by some of the stuff that I've seen, but I really like mixed reality. So
yeah, you just saw you just like the Lego trailer they had, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I really like that game. So, but all the other stuff, like there was one. Sorry, I know you're going to go through this. I think it's Demeter. It's called, and it's like a mixed reality platformer. And just the way the trailer they showed for that, like that looks really cool. Like, so much of that to me looks really cool because I enjoy the mixed reality stuff. But I can understand then people on the other side going, "That was very mid. Like that was rubbish. That's the future of VR. I'm out." But we've got a predominant PSVR2 audience where there wasn't much there for them, so I can understand that at the same time.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, a lot of people are only interested in the big, high-profile games. And no offense to Upload VR, but that's not where Sony are going to reveal games at an Upload VR conference. They will use their own platform for that. So, just a quick run.
Go for it, because I was going to ask a question probably about one of the games you'll mention. So
okay, well, I was just literally going to quick run through. I think people should go to Upload VR's website because they do a great job of covering all this stuff. So I don't want to, people should just go to check out them at the source. But just to run through, if people just to try and tempt people to go over there and watch it, all the PSVR2 reveals that I spotted, and there might have been more that I've missed, but it's Prison Boss VR. It's available now, and they also announced a sequel for that will be coming to PSVR2. Drums Rock. It's getting a new music pack with some new tracks on there. Astro Hunters, a new game revealed, which is just a CGI trailer. The logo, they looked very, very similar to Astrobot logo, and I was like, "Is this what they're doing here?" Because you think Astrobot, and their logo looks even the same. So I thought that was a funny. Either they're just taking the mickey a little bit there. There was a new trailer for Soul Covenant. New release date given for Madison VR. Or you have to say Soul Covenant. It's Soul Covenant. They say it in that wonderful Japanese, the way they did it.
Oh, that was Japanese, okay.
Yeah, the way they say it, pronounce it with a Japanese translation. No, it was not. Okay. Madison VR got a release date of 20th of February. So that was due out around Halloween before, so it's now got a new release date, which is good. A new trailer for the events at Unity Farm, which is due to come to PSVR2, and the description for that was mixing magic with Lovecraftian horror, which I've got no idea what that means. There was a load of physical games that Perp Games are going to release over the next few months. So they're bringing physical editions to the market of Hubris, Crossfire, Mixture, Operation Serpents, Vertigo 2, Happy Funland, Pumata, Madison VR, Wanderer, The Fragments of Fate. So yeah, loads of physical PSVR2 games for people that like that kind of stuff. Mixture was a game coming on the 8th of February, and I think this was just coming to PSVR2 actually. That looks quite cool actually, that one.
That's the one I like the look of the most out of everything, because it's same. Third person, isn't it? Kind of like Moss like style.
A Moss 'em up. Yeah, if you will.
Exactly. A Moss-like.
Yeah, they did look good. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that more because it comes out in a couple of months' time.
8th
of February, yeah. Gazlers is getting a new update. Paint the Town Red VR is coming on March the 24th. And finally, Ragnarok update. Oh, no, not finally, because there's a whole other page I've got to scroll down. Ragnarok is getting Jonathan Young, who's a heavy metal person, DLC pack. Timeless Hearts VR. It's a story-based VR roguelike adventure. Umurangi Generation VR. There you go. Coming on the 18th of April. And the Walkabout Mini Golf Meow Wolf course was revealed and shown. And then finally, this is the real final this time, Green Hell is getting a co-op mode. So there you go. There was lots of things, but probably not for someone who's not into VR particularly. Probably a lot of that stuff wouldn't mean much to them. So,
why would you watch it?
Yeah, well, indeed. Yeah, indeed. But yeah, there was a lot there, so it's well worth checking out. I mean, how long was? Because there was a lot more.
It was an hour.
That sounded like a lot. There was a lot of stuff there, but there was loads more. That's probably a fifth of the reveals there. There's tons more stuff.
Because it did run for over an hour and 40 minutes. Because it got to like 10 to 7, and like we're halfway through, and like, what? Come on. I mean, there's a couple of big things I would say. Like two of the biggest things he probably announced aren't currently announced for PSVR2, so that would have been is Undercover from Thunderful and Coatsink, the one that's very Time Crisis. So it's basically it's properly going for Time Crisis as that cover shooter. It's like proper arcadey, and then the other one being Arcade Paradise VR, because that game in flat is incredible, and then you see it made up from VR and filling that washing machine with the clothes with your hands and plunging in the toilets, but then how they've redone it and the different types of arcade games they've done to make it work in VR, I think it's incredibly clever. So that's one that I think will do really well, and I'd imagine that will come to PSVR2 at some point. It'll just probably be timed on Meta. I would be shocked if it isn't.
Yeah. So yeah, check it out. I think people Upload VR done a great job as well of just putting each of those games as their own story on their website as well. So if there's anything there that caught your attention, then you can just go and find it on their website and learn more about it, and just watch the trailer for that without having to sit through an hour and 40 minutes of Quest trailers as well. So yeah, cool.
Wunderbar.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we should move on to the main event of the show. Before we do, though, to remind everyone, if they'd like to support us, they can give the podcast a sub on the service they're using. And if they want to leave us a review too, well, that would be awesome. And if they really want to show the love, they can do so at patreon.com/lacrosseplayers. And for £2 a month, they can become a patron and join entry into our lovely little WhatsApp group and gain access to the exclusive Bin Chat Patreon podcast, which is always utter nonsense. Great. Okay. Well, that is let's move into our interview with Jörg. So we'll say goodbye now, and we'll hand over to ourselves from an hour or so ago and Jörg.
I guess, a good place to start is you have you've got several dubious honours, but chief amongst them is you are not only the first person to ever be a guest on this podcast, you're the first person to ever come back as a guest. So the first returning guest we've ever had. So how does that feel? Amongst all your many, many achievements, I'm sure that must be pretty high up there.
Well, not only am I honored to have this distinction, but also I am the first returning guest to have also won the Best Sports Game Award.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So
that was,
which thank you guys. We were all extremely honored to receive it, and and I personally liked rubbing it in with the PlayStation team to say that we won against Gran Turismo 7 when I talked to them yesterday. So.
It's quite fair.
That's a different debate. It's a different debate, isn't it? As to what's actually is racing a sports game? You're not even moving your body, are you? You don't even have to use the move controllers. You can just use a DualSense. That doesn't count.
Well, unless of course you've got a racing wheel.
Exactly.
and then it gets physical. I have one in the office, and it's. I actually have to say that Gran Turismo 7 makes me feel a little bit sick. Like when I play it, it's a little bit, and I don't know why. Because I was totally fine with Wipeout on PSVR1. So which by the way, why the heck is that not on PSVR2?
It's very upsetting. It's very upsetting, Jörg.
Sorry.
But it would be good to talk again about C-Smash then, because it is developed and grown so much since release. We've all been playing it again because we said, right, let's sit down and let's re-review the game now, because it's a completely different game. When I played it again, I picked it up again recently, I was just floored by how much better a game it was, and not doing a disservice of how it was at launch, but compared to just how much it's grown and evolved over the space since launch, has been fantastic to see.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, we're proud of it. It's we did release a full game at launch, but but there's a dreadful word, content, that keeps coming back. There's not enough content. And can't we just be happy with something that's beautifully made and that gives us a really good, slick time and actually respects our time? But no, it's we've added more. We've doubled it in size. We've added a bunch of new modes, co-op and AI sort of versus bot, and a bunch of surprises here and there. And actually, in the coming weeks, there'll be some more updates. There'll be leaderboards. There'll be one feature that I'm very excited about, because we were, and thanks for pointing it out also on your show. At EGX, we were I believe we stole a bit of the show there. At least we were certainly the one game that really unanimously made people smile, when they played it. And certainly it was the only game that made people move at the show, which is also kind of crazy when you think about it. It's a festival where people are static, and standing in line, which is what game festivals have become, I guess. And
we saw you at EGX, and the lines that you had for that game just always just there, people queuing up to play the game. And we said, God, you are doing such a job for Sony here to promote the headset. Why aren't they here? Why aren't they here with dozens and dozens of headsets for people to try on? Because with VR, you need to experience it for yourself, right? So having a presence with it on that show floor, it just seemed like such a missed opportunity for Sony to not be there themselves. But yeah, you could see by the cues that you were getting and the interest and the reception, you could just, as you say, you could see the people smiling when they were playing it and just experiencing that for the first time. I think a lot of people would have gone away from that thinking, oh, wow, VR is cool now.
VR is cool, but it's a performance, and it's an event as well in itself, and it's far closer to the theater than it is to a movie or to a flat experience of sorts. It is genuinely immersive, and you love to watch people playing it as well. And I mean, that's the one thing that PlayStation really got right from the start, is that you can watch people play it on the TV, that they've integrated rather well. But it's true. I mean, I can't help but thinking that, well, first of all, a lot of these big, especially American corporations, have pulled out of live events, especially since the pandemic, and so that's been one of the factors there. And they feel that for whatever reason, it's not financially viable or something like that for them to be at shows, which is a huge bummer, because again, it's just turning everything into content and digital sort of garbage. I loathe the idea that culture is being so dephysicalized, and games make you feel stuff, they make you think, they sometimes make you move, indeed, like our game does, like the Wii did, a couple of generations ago, 3 console generations ago. I mean, people in retirement homes were playing Wii Sports. I mean, that was a major thing where suddenly it would cross generations. It was bizarrely like a step in an incredible direction, and then suddenly after that, the Wii U sort of tanked, and then suddenly everything went back to just being this joypad, whose primary function is to shoot people in the face, because the trigger is still the dominant element on any controller. It's essentially a gun. Actually, interesting piece of trivia: who introduced the trigger to the controller?
So not just a shoulder button, but a full-on trigger.
Mm-hmm. I think I know the answer.
Is that the Dreamcast?
Yeah. No. Was it the GameCube? Did that come first?
No. I mean, the GameCube had one, but it wasn't the GameCube.
I guess the N64 kind of had a trigger. Yeah.
And isn't it crazy to think that it was for GoldenEye? And it's crazy to think that the most kid-friendly company,
it's got a lot to answer for.
Turn the controller into a gun, isn't it? It's it's really
and a
odd.
trident if you turned it around the other way, so 2 weapons in one.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm also
dual wielding GoldenEye as well. Even more mad.
Stab.
Terrible way to play the game, but it was possible.
Well, technically, they already had a gun when they did Duck Hunt. I mean, at the very beginning. So
very true.
It's all their fault. Bobby Kotick owes everything to Nintendo.
Back to C-Smash.
Sorry.
That's why I love discussing with you, Jörg. You just don't know where the conversation is going to go, Jörg. It's wonderful.
It's a roller coaster.
Sorry, yes. Games. PlayStation, yes. I don't know. I mean, they were doing a lot of the job for them, or maybe for VR, but ultimately we're really doing it for our game, and most importantly, we're doing it for players. Like we're on PlayStation VR2 for now. We're extremely grateful for all the support PlayStation have given us. Of course, I think all of us can agree that we wish the PSVR2 was doing better. I mean, you can sense that it's perhaps not sort of like the hottest gaming item, and I just almost said peripheral, and that hurt. Because it feels like a peripheral right now, the way it's being treated, and it's like, and I think there was this sort of article about, like a blog post from PlayStation maybe a couple of weeks ago, where they talked about all the stuff that's coming out, Portal and all that kind of stuff, and then the PlayStation VR2 was sort of like mentioned in a paragraph about accessories, and it's like, I don't know if you guys noticed that, but it's like, it was just, guys, it's not an accessory. In a way, it's a system of its own. Yeah, it sort of needs to tether on to the PlayStation 5 to do it. But then also you have this thing, I flagged this with PlayStation. I wish they do something about that. It's like when you put the headset on and you visit the home menu, and of course the home menu doesn't really change. It's suddenly surrounded by this black sort of whatever surround, which is a bit boring and drab.
Yeah.
But when you go to the store itself, it doesn't know that you're wearing the headset, even though the console does. And why doesn't it just show you VR games? Like, so actually, the discoverability of our games is not there, and it's a bummer. So there are things where I just wish both PlayStation and but also the world as a general understood that VR it's an event and it has to be physicalized. It has to be it's exciting. And it's not just a piece of hardware peripheral that you annoyingly strap to your face. But thankfully, people are responding to our game, which is great.
Good. And you mentioned events there. Obviously, we spoke about EGX and how popular C Smash was at EGX. But you have also been a busy man, true to form, and you are kind of organising a big gaming event next year, right? It's the first one, isn't it? Humanize Festival, right?
Yes, Humanize Festival of Play. Yeah, Humanize Festival of Play. We've announced it just a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I think. Humanize with an S because we are in the UK after all.
Quite right. Yeah.
Correct.
And humanize.games is the website where you can sign up to the newsletter and where we'll be announcing the actual festival dates for next year soon. But yeah, we'll be turning the whole town of Kendal, a beautiful town in the Lake District, into a playable map. It's all going to be physical. There's not going to be people standing in queues to then eventually sit down and on a chair in front of a board, which has a screen on it and a joypad. But it's going to be a cultural event, but it's not going to be an artsy cultural event. It's really going to celebrate the inclusivity and accessibility and also the social nature of games. I mean, when I first fell in love with games, it was in the 80s because I'm an old fuck. And it was it was Outrun in 1986 and I sat down inside the full size cabinet and it was moving and it was a VR experience. I mean, sure, I mean I wasn't wearing a headset, but I was sitting inside of it and arcades were so social because you had there was a little girl watching here, there's an old dude with a cigarette, there's some shouting behind, there's some drunkards running about. I mean, the arcades were fully like you had the whole plethora of human experience within them, and then suddenly as the consoles and the technology got more and more refined and we could suddenly bring console quality stuff to the house, like everything started becoming more and more isolated and isolating as well, for that matter. Games suddenly stopped being social. And then we had tech companies, and especially internet and data companies, gaslighting us into believing that doing stuff on the internet is social. Well, it is to a certain degree, but you're no longer interacting with people in the flesh or on the same couch, etc. And so I wanted to bring that back and remind people of the fact that games aren't tech, they're culture, and that games are human, and that's why it's called Humanize. And of course, as part of Humanize Festival of Play, we will also have a big VR esports event. And so it's going to be a physical VR esports event with people, like hundreds of people watching players, athletes, VR athletes perform competitively.
Wow. You're looking right at some VR athletes right here.
I mean, you guys have VR to come. It's going to be amazing. But also the other thing that, the one thing that's really special about C Smash, and we haven't really talked about it yet, and I don't know if you guys have noticed it even, is that it is an extremely and increasingly accessible game. So, for instance, you could be playing the game seated in a wheelchair, for instance, against a fully quote-unquote able pro tennis player, for instance. And when you're inside the game playing online, no one would know that you don't have the same physical ability as they do. As a matter of fact, we will soon also be including a one-handed mode to the game where you can do both the serve and actually use the racket hand all in the same hand, because I had this fun moment at EGX where there was a player who came by and he had one of his arms in a he broke his arm. Yeah, in a sling. And he's like, I want to play. He's like, and I looked at him, I was like, fuck, what do we do now? and he's like, oh, don't worry. I only broke it 3 days ago. I think it should heal. I can move it enough. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. I don't want to be responsible. Do you want to sign some disclaimer? And he said, don't worry.
Means tennis elbow.
Yeah. I mean, he was broken, the poor dude. And that gave me the idea. It's like, oh my God, we can actually do it with one hand. There's a way of doing it. But you can change. Of course, it's the left and right-handed players can play it, which surprisingly a lot of VR games don't even support that yet. You can change the movement on the analog stick and alternate it between them, regardless of which hand you use as the racket hand and all this kind of stuff. So we've put all these things in the game to hopefully invite as many people into it as possible. And so, indeed, one thing what I also want to do is have people athletes in wheelchairs play against people who are on 2 feet, and that's something I just have never seen before in any sport, virtual or physical, or IRL. And so it's going to be a uniquely positive, inviting, inclusive, and human event.
I think for anyone listening as well that maybe played the game at launch, I found it much more accessible from a difficulty perspective. I think there's it's not a casual mode. Is it called casual mode?
Zen
mode, thank you.
Yeah.
Zen. And I was like, I can play this now, because that was for me, when I played it before, I just wasn't good enough to complete the levels in the time. And I kept trying and I kept having to repeat levels, and eventually it started getting frustrating. But now I can play it in Zen mode. And I was like, this is catering for me now and my abilities much more at this. And it gives me a chance to practice.
Mode.
Busy tab mode, yeah.
I can't keep losing. I just need to get through.
Yeah, don't have time to get through.
And then you get to the final boss, and then it's like, oh, actually, no, this is quite difficult again. That was a nice surprise, though. I like that.
I don't know. It just feels much more balanced, like it was ramping up with me, and the challenges. It wasn't. I didn't have the pressure of like constantly timer counting down, which that's there if people want to have that mode. But it's just, I really appreciated that extra mode for it. So I think anyone that wants to revisit it, that mode is there waiting for them.
Yeah,
I think the level of options in general should be praised as well. I think what you've added, even you can kind of increase the level of detail, so you can have it completely minimalist, without any kind of annotations to the menus, or you can have, if you're wondering, what does that little symbol mean? You can actually add that note, which is something I noticed this week. And I was like, now I know what that means, which is really handy.
I'm a stickler for less is more. And I mean, that was really the philosophy behind the game from the beginning. Actually, it was, or even better, it was less but better was our approach, and which is a slogan we stole from the great German designer Dieter Rams, who was the designer for Brown, and then and famously, Johnny Ive, essentially stole all of his designs for Apple, because they're very, very heavily inspired by Dieter Rams's design aesthetic. And I mean, if you Google Johnny Ive and Dieter Rams, you'll see that there's some like sort of like split screen comparisons of their products, and you go, oh Jesus, like he basically invented Apple. But we also were very inspired by his approach, which was just everything has to have a function, and if it doesn't, it shouldn't be there. And in a world of so much noise that we now inhabit, and also including in games where we can essentially do anything now. In games we can put particle effects everywhere, we can put reflections here and there, and all the colors under the moon and whatever, and then and everything just becomes noise. It's like Marvel movies. It's like everything is crisp and everything is rendered and everything is there. There's just no shadows anymore. It's like everything's just like all this fucking money on screen, and you don't even know where to look anymore. And so I wanted to allow people to relax while being physical. And I think that's why I think it feels good.
Completely agree. Yeah. You have nailed the brief then in that case. That's, definitely. Well, just before we move on from
I haven't.
Humanized
The
Festival
team
of Play,
it's amazing to be working with people who actually know how to nail things. Yeah, I was just hammering.
One other thing I wanted to check: the Humanized Festival of Play. Why Kendall specifically? It's not somewhere I've ever been, but is that what's the thinking behind it being in Kendall?
So Kendall is a festival town. It has been home to two great festivals. One is the world's leading adventure film festival called the Kendall Mountain Festival. And so the town itself has only like 23,000 inhabitants, but every time the Kendall Mountain Festival comes around each year, it grows to around 50,000 people. So it actually also uniquely has the capacity to grow twice in size. When it hosts other people, it's surrounded by beautiful nature. So it's surrounded by hills and the lakes, and so that also makes it a lovely destination. And then it also has been home to the Lakes Comic Arts Festival, which has been around since 2014. I was there during its inaugural year with a graphic novel I wrote back then called Ricky Rouse Has a Gun. And I've known them since. And Matt Burke, who is one of the co-founders of the Lakes Comic Arts Festival, which is now the best comic book festival in the UK, he approached me, like, I want to do a games festival. And can you advise me and consult me on that? And, when he first pitched it to me, he just said, like, yeah, I just want to do a festival and bring games to it. I don't know, workshops and have developers talk and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, we kind of have that already, that exists in some shape or form. Can we do something completely different? And so we started brainstorming, and that's how sort of Humanize came about. But yeah, it's a lovely town, and also the North, is a place that also deserves to have its events. There's incredible game developers up north, and also in Scotland, of course, just across as well. And so I want to celebrate them as well, and just get away from London a little bit. So yeah, Kendall is gorgeous, and then you can go to Lake Windermere. There will be hiking trips. There will be mountain biking. There'll be all sorts of other cool things you'll be able to do during the festival.
It sounds incredibly wholesome.
It does.
It is, because games are incredibly wholesome, although can be, I mean, they're not when they're sort of wasting our time for like 80 hours and we're sort of like chasing sort of dumbass achievements and like, like spending time, I mean, listen, I have chased a lot of dumbass achievements in my life.
Right. I'm not going to tell him I'm one away from the platinum on C Smash.
No, but I've spent so much time doing it, but sometimes it feels a bit thankless, and sort of almost abusive are the amount of time that games can take from us. And, I mean, when you play a Nintendo game, for instance, when you play a Mario game, that if you sort of waste your time walking around the corner and whatever, you'll find the delight there. They will like Miyamoto and team will hide something behind that almost that impossible looking, like no way they would put anything there, right? But there's a lot of games, especially Ubisoft games, where you can sort of walk around for hours, and he's like, okay, why did I just do this? Like and so, but I feel like in the real world, wherever you go, it gives something back. And so sort of physicalizing this experience and indeed giving that sense of achievement to the event. And I don't give away too many surprises, because we're indeed turning the town into a playable map. The idea that everything, that it will be full of surprises and unlockable events and things, almost saying too much, is going to remind us of what makes games fun, which makes them feel not like an escape, but like a place you can travel to. And that's something that's really important to me. I don't want a games as escapism. I want games as a journey, as a travel, as a place where you go so you can gain something from it that you were perhaps missing, and then take some of that back home with you.
That's lovely.
Beautifully put.
It just got me thinking, like, some of the things that we've enjoyed most in VR this year is the stuff that you can do in real life. It's like the escape rooms, playing the Room VR, or mini golf, playing Walkabout mini golf. And the three of us would never meet up just to play mini golf in real life. We should do, but we don't. But we meet up in
purely for
we
geographical
meet up in
reasons,
Walkabout.
not because we despise each other in real life. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, but when we do meet up, we all went to EGX this year, and we all went up and queued up and played games, like I said. But it would have been more fun if we'd queued up and played mini golf together or something and do that. But we're not. We're meeting to meet at EGX, and for me, that being there is just to be social and see people and bump into people that we know, rather than queuing up to play any games. That's kind of the secondary thing we do while we're there.
But that's the thing that's weird about it, right? Because you don't feel the joy of gaming at these events, and why is that? Because when you go to a literary festival, you don't see people slumped against a wall reading books. Yeah,
it's a celebration, but
it's a celebration of the culture of books and the people that make them, and game events haven't quite caught on to that idea yet. They sort of we're still treating those as like sort of product sort of garage sales, and that's a bummer. It's a disservice to our art and our culture, and indeed our incredible community that we have.
And does that come from conferences being evolved from the E3 model, where it's like just a chance for buyers to get their hands on the latest games before the internet was a thing, and people used to go there to see games and then write about them and sell them to people, and that's kind of what gaming conventions still are. And you're right, they don't really need to be there anymore because there's better ways. I always think when I see people queuing up to play a game, I'm like, well, this game, I can just download a demo of this next week when it comes out.
But I think they have a right to. I think they have a right to be there, but I think they have to evolve, just like everything has to evolve. Like the game industry is not evolving in the right direction at the moment, as we all have noticed. I mean, there's been 9,000 layoffs this year. The stores are just filled with garbage. And they continue to take 30% from us, most of them, and even those that take a little bit less, like just give away games for free every Thursday, AAA games, so you don't really feel the urge to buy anything on that anyway. So it's kind of a con, regardless of where you look. And so the digital spaces have become impossible. They're no longer stores; they're sort of landfills, And then the sort of physical event side, what is that? It's sort of like a sad reflection of, some games that sort of want to get attention. They don't have enough money. So the indie games, for instance, at Gamescom, all get crammed into a literal ghetto at Gamescom, which is one hall. And the hall is called Indie Arena Booth. So every single indie in the world gets to share one booth with every other indie game. Whereas all the AAA games have their own booths. So, and then, and if you start to think about it, it's like, that's kind of fucked up, because the whole wealth of games is really in the indie scene, really. I mean, that's where the innovation happens. That's where the ideas come from. And so that sort of inequality is also then reflected in the way game festivals are structured and done, right? You've got indies sort of like sharing some fucking desks down the corner, like as if you're going to a cubicle land. And then you've got big bombastic AAA bullshit. And I'm saying that all the AAA stuff is bullshit, but most of it is. And, and that's what's so fucking beautiful about VR, is like, this is still an experimental space. And we don't have any rules yet for it. This is the thing that really works. Like, we know Beat Saber works, but if you try to copy it, you're just a pale copy of Beat Saber. So done that. Shooting people in the face, sure, you can do that better here and there. You can iterate on that stuff. Oh, cool, here's zombies, and here's Arizona Sunshine 2. Really well done. And a lot of people just endlessly like to shoot things, and it's great. But but there's so much innovation within that space. There's so much invention happening still, and it will continue to be so. Half-Life Alyx was obviously a golden example of extremely well produced sort of like AAA game, but people aren't really copying that. You can't like attain that kind of level of budget because it's unsustainable for anyone else. But at the same time, people are finding different ways of locomotion, of interaction, of communication and stuff. I adore it. So, but how do we now translate this in the real world? How do we make people understand that that's what VR does? And we need events for that, not from a marketing point of view, but from a experience point of view. VR needs to be physical and it needs to be experienced live, I think.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Good. Go on, Laurie.
I'm just going to say that it's those games like, for me, it's where there's those narrative heavy games. So things like Red Matter, don't know if you had a chance to play Red Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
It's that physicality of it, because you are walking around, and it's that sort of game. I can't imagine playing that seated. I want to stand up because I want to lean up and pick up the things in front of me and interact with them. Those kind of puzzle games but where you have that narrative as well, and you really feel like you're in the story. For me, that's what I just want. VR games that are like short experiences that just put you in the shoes of someone else, and you really can experience that feeling. You said earlier, it's like theatre, where it's like you can really empathize with that character. You feel like you're in their shoes so much. It just has a real impact and stuff. And there's been some really moving experiences. Like I'm thinking of Another Fisherman's Tale, and you guys both liked Before Your Eyes, that really can have such a profound impact because they're in VR. So I'd like to see more of that kind of thing.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. The thing, the problem is, like, from a commercial point of view, is that narrative-driven games just don't really sell. And I mean, some of them, like I mentioned Before Your Eyes and others, are a lot of them. Like, you'll see that there's a lot of like the more narrative-driven, more experimental games that would probably come of countries like either France or Canada, where you have support from the state, from the government, and they get grants, right? And at a certain time, Meta would give out grants as well, which they no longer do. So at the beginning of the Quest, you would see a lot of far more experimental, high budget, high ambitious games that were a bit more weird and a bit more personal and all this kind of stuff. And you see less of that now, and there's a reason for that, because there are less grants now for those kind of games. I mean, The Last Worker, for instance, right? I mean, our own game, my first collaboration with Wolf and Wood. I mean, we nominated for at the Venice Film Festival. We had all sorts of amazing reviews for it. These amazing performances by an incredible cast in it. There was also a flat version of the game that we were asked to make, which I wish we hadn't, in a way, because I think the game is just so beautiful in VR, and I wish we'd only just pushed that. But by the time we released it, like the landscape had changed on Quest as well. It's like, the sort of like first person narrative stuff suddenly and any narrative driven stuff was starting to dip deeper and fall deeper and deeper inside the charts. And you'd start seeing all these shooters pretty much dominating it, or sort of like goofy games like the monkey moving thing. What it was called, which is fun as fuck, but what's it called?
I've no idea.
Toss?
No, it's
Gorilla
incredible.
Tag.
No, you're just this monkey winthour this legless monkey
running around on all fours,
and you have to move about with your hands like that. It's like no one, in the beginning people always said like, yeah, you don't want to do locomotion by moving your hands. No one will want to play that. And there's this one guy who just said like, you know what, I'm gonna make a game. It's gonna be all about that. And he put that on the sort of on App Lab, and kids just went crazy because it was free. And he's like, and it's ridiculous because everything you do is just by doing this, you just push yourself up, and it's insane. It shouldn't make you vomit. It probably does, and all that jazz. But it's huge. I forgot the name of it now. Tumble or something like that. I don't know. It's awesome.
It's a shame. It would have been a great advert for them, but we don't know the name of the game.
We'll clip that and put the text over the top of it.
Yeah. Correct me.
Yeah. Okay, conscious of time here, as you are the busiest man on the planet, but I did want to ask one final question.
We only have half an hour. Is that it?
Well,
yeah. I'm
Right.
all right. I can hang on if you want.
Okay, so if Sony approached you, said, you seem to know your shit, what are we going to do with PSVR2? If they just put you in charge, how would you run things from here on out for 2024?
First,
no pressure.
No. I mean, I've thought about this. I mean, I think about world domination every time, every day. No, but I mean, firstly, we alluded to this earlier. There are some PlayStation classics and also PSVR1 classics that the fact that they're not on PSVR2 is crazy to me. So I mean, Wipeout, please,
definitely.
And it's already HD. It looks crisp as hell. Like it doesn't need anything other than sort of changing the control scheme to the new joypad or whatever, to the new controllers.
so well on the PS5 as well.
It's incredible. I was playing it the other day. Yeah, it's amazing. I was playing
it's
it in my Portal.
It's a PSVR1 game, right? It's on PSVR. So
yeah. So that,
come on.
But Astrobot Rescue Mission, excuse me, but like, if Team Asobi doesn't want to do it and they're moved on to something else, I've been hoping that they're working on a PSVR2 game. I don't know if they are. I fear it might be another flat Astrobot, because I mean the one that they packaged in with the PS5 is incredible. The one that you got for free, I think, is actually still probably the best, first party PS5 game, even though it was free. It's the one that gave me the most joy and delight anyway.
Yeah.
It was stunning. I was like, it used the controller beautifully, and not in a sort of like, oh, look, the controller can do this. It's like, no, you can do this with a controller, which is even better. And it was just stunning. So that, like, can I just please have an HD remake of the original game? Like, there are so many developers right now that are running out of money and struggling. Like, can PlayStation perhaps hand this game over to one of these very talented devs and go like, please just work on an HD remake because the team is working on something else? People will jump at that. There's so many great VR developers with great art teams who would probably jump at the chance. So those to me are things, we're getting a new Last of Us remake every 5 months. So, so maybe the same could be done for this, but so those are obvious things. Of course, Half-Life Alyx, I don't know if Steam is hogging it. But the fact that it's not on PSVR2 is silly. It's just silly. It's it has to be on there. And what's even more silly is that Portal is not on PS5. And even worse, Portal is not on Portal.
That is a crying shame.
That is a crime.
Hey, see what he's done there. But Portal in VR, it just needs to happen. That would be so much fun.
I know, but I mean, I'm sure that Valve are being sort of protective of their own. They want to be their own sort of PC VR empire and whatnot. Maybe who knows?
But we always say that I hate this exclusivity with VR. Is not a big enough medium enough for all the different platform holders to hold their stuff close. It's just, by all means, have a period of 6 months or a year. But yeah, it's that Assassin's Creed Nexus game, like a big high profile game like that, being locked on one system. It's just mad. Like, because we need people to play these games to get the sales to make it worth making more games like it.
I'm sure. I think, I don't know about Assassin's Creed. Is that a timed exclusive?
They've not said yet.
They've not said.
Don't know for sure.
Okay, no idea. Okay, yeah, I'd be surprised if it didn't come to PSVR2. Like, Ubisoft likes to maximize their income and profits and things. I mean, who doesn't?
Probably come to Labo.
Nintendo Labo.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. Yeah, that VR, the Labo VR was very promising.
It wasn't the best VR experience, but it was great fun. I actually got to build. I have that, and building the headset with my son. It's a fantastic experience. If you want to talk about physicality of games,
building the stuff was more fun than playing it. Yes.
Yeah.
But actually, speaking of, I have a Virtual Boy in my office, and I have 10 games on that one. And there's a game that I only just discovered existed. I found it on eBay, and it's called Space Squash, I think. And it's like
sounds familiar.
I know. It's crazy.
You sure you haven't played that before?
No. I mean, listen, I didn't. Cosmic Smash.
We know you didn't copy them. If anyone's in trouble, it's Sega.
No, it's like it's cool. It's like you're like a flying character. So it's like it's a 3D space, and you're flying like a little jetpack and stuff. And there's one on the opposite side, and there's some blocks in the middle occasionally and stuff. It's super cool. It does make you feel sick and gives you a migraine after about 20 seconds, as the Virtual Boy did. But if you guys ever in London and stuff, come by, because the Virtual Boy is like, it's where it all began, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never actually played one. I've always wanted to, so I might take you up on
that. It is great. Well, technically, it's not where it all began, because Sega was going to have its first VR headset, the first commercial one, back in 1993, which would have been 2 years before the Virtual Boy.
Yeah, I think you showed us.
Yes.
You showed us that last time you were on, and it looks like a modern VR headset.
It looks amazing.
It was going
to cost $200 back then, which I don't know. Which I don't know what it is today. Today's equivalent, I think it probably would be like $500, $600. And you would hook it up to the Mega Drive, and it would probably run at 14 frames a second. And but Virtua Racing was apparently in development for that. which is why it was called VR. Virtual racing. So when it always flashes VR in front of it. Anyway, we could be in a completely different future now had Sega actually gone through with that. But hey, now we have Microsoft not doing VR at all, but they are selling HoloLenses to the Pentagon in the billions. So, hey,
wow.
Fun world.
And Christmas jumpers to idiots as well, I've heard.
Christmas jumpers, yes. And and they've spent $69 billion on the biggest army recruitment platform in the world. For the kids. So don't worry about it. It's all good.
Give us one more flash of your T-shirt on that note. Jörg, let's have a look. Just for all the COD fans out there. There we go.
Love you all.
Brilliant.
But yes. But VR is exciting. I think the Quest. I had a lovely meeting this morning actually with some folks at Meta, and here in London, and I'm excited. I am excited because they are supporting it. Yes, it's a bummer that there's like one big player in the scene, really. Although the Pico headset is stunning. Like I don't know if you guys have put the Pico 4 headset on.
No.
I think it's the most comfortable VR standalone headset in the world. It's a great headset. It has a higher resolution than even the PSVR2, I believe. So it's generationally, it's somewhere between the Quest 2 and the Quest 3, between the Quest 2 and the PSVR2 kind of thing. And it's amazing. It's a great system. It is really, really good. And yeah, we've heard that Pico has had some layoffs. Who hasn't? Like, I think proportionally, Pico has had as many layoffs as Meta has had layoffs over the last 2 years when you think about it.
We should just be thankful that Mark Zuckerberg is just committed and putting money into this, because you can tell the executives at Facebook must be desperate to shut down the whole metaverse project. But he's like, nope, we're going to make this. We're going to keep putting money into this until it happens.
But it's not.
It's great.
It is, but it's not the metaverse project. I mean, the Quest is a gaming system, like really fundamentally, and they have a gaming division. They have people like Jason Rubin working at Meta, right? Jason Rubin, who of course co-created Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter and founded Naughty Dog, right? That dude is working within Meta, so it is there are some great people in there, and of course they've only just launched the thing. It's only been around for a short period of time. They've been committed to it. I've got all sorts of issues with the mothership over there, but as far as the potential of the Quest and where it's going, and the fact that the Quest 2 is still selling like boatloads, right? It's exciting. It's like there are things to be done, and there's a lot of room for improvement, and they're very well aware of that as well. And you can see that they're constantly iterating, they're constantly adding updates, adding features, hand tracking this, etc. It is evolving as a thing, and so I think we have to thank them for it as well, and we also have to thank PlayStation because they did release PSVR2. The first one wasn't a massive success. They're making billions with their flat games. They technically don't need this. At the same time, it feels like they also feel that sometimes it feels like they go like, well, technically we don't need this, and so it also seems like it's being treated in that way. But thanks to people like yourselves and us, also, they feel that there's lots of love for it. People are having an amazing time in it, and I certainly love making games for it. So let's keep going.